Hello ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a survival show special taking a look at Icarus and the news of its release date revealed over the weekend as part of the E3 PC Gamer Show. Got a bunch of information to go through, including the price, deluxe edition, future DLC, and what you can expect from this PvE cooperative survival experience. So all that, if you enjoy it, if you find it useful, leave a like and let's crack on. So Icarus hit us with a much earlier than expected release date. They recently changed their Steam as not coming in 2021 but coming fall 2021, and it does look like they've pushed it up even further. So it will be August the 11th that hits worldwide, August the 12th in New Zealand where their development company Rocketworks is based. And it's not going to be free to play. That was part of their first reveal plans when they first revealed Icarus like last year, that the game would be free to play. But in the last few months with other journalist interviews, they kind of have sort of been a bit more coy about the pricing, and now it's confirmed that the game will be $29.99, around 24 quid in the UK. Not only that, they're going to have a deluxe edition that has the next two chapters. They're calling it chapters. The base game is the first cohort, and then after that they're going to be adding two more DLC chapters to the game, and this is gonna substantially bump up that price to $100. I don't think I've seen as an expensive addition from a game that's kind of out of nowhere still, despite its pedigree, despite having a history of having the DayZ original mod creator Dean Hall behind it. It's still a big leap to go from having just a game that's only 24 quid or $30 up to 100 for its planned DLC further down the road. I would say this is the bold move from a company that have only really been making one game before this, which was Stationeers, a few cancelled projects, which is pretty normal. And yep, sadly, I'll have to bring it up, the history of the original creator, Dean Hall, who left famously the DayZ project literally when it only really just got started, and it took Bohemia years to get the right planning and get the right people behind it to get that game out of early access. Now, if you actually read into the history of that, not is it just a clash of egos between Bohemia and Dean Hall, but it does seem very much like Bohemia never really supported Dean Hall with a lot of the stuff that he thought would make a great game. Hence why he went on to make his own studio and, you know, start making his own content. And so this is real big test of whether Dean Hall's got the credentials from being someone that created one of the most popular and I would say the most cultural significant games in the survival genre, DayZ. Can he improve on that? Can he add something more to that genre? Can he make a big splash with Icarus? They must be pretty confident in the product to have these two DLCs lined up and to have these deluxe editions. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's going on. So let's talk about what Icarus is today, what kind of content you can expect, and whether or not it's going to be the game for you. So first and foremost, Icarus is a PvE experience. They've spoken briefly about some stuff in the past in interviews that they may look at PvP in the future or find some ways to integrate certain aspects, maybe into different instances. But first and foremost, it is a PvE experience for up to 8 players, and it's going to be session based. So there will be a host, but that host can change. So if you start a game, your friends join, you have to go and leave, then you can have it so that instance will switch to one of your friends. And it's very much like Deep Rock Galactic. They've spoken on record how much that influenced them. Effectively visiting the planet of Icarus to get valuable resources called exotics, and this can help you upgrade your technology to make the next run a bit quicker, a bit easier and a bit better. The planet Icarus was once going to be earmarked for Earth's next colonisation until terraforming kind of caused some problems. During that process though, when they thought the idea was dead of going to this planet, xenobiologists discovered these exotic matters and they're very valuable, and it started up a kind of gold rush where prospectors are desperate to get to the planet to gather these resources and get off before the weather as well as creatures and such like take you down. Hence why there's a lot of earth-based creatures like bears, wolves, deers and stuff, because they were part of that process of getting it to become the next Earth. The big difference between this and Deep Rock Galactic though is if you don't escape from the planet in time, whatever time that may be, it might be a short session, it may be a longer session, then you run the risk of losing all of your progress, your character, all of the stuff that you've been doing, it will be gone. So the general premise is actually grabbing me, not a PvP focused affair, not worrying about keeping your base safe from other players, just more about the elements and a typical survival simulation, what I kind of would expect from someone that created the DayZ mod, someone that has helped out and has a real love and passion for survival. There's going to be two different types of tech tree. The first tech tree is the planet side stuff, what you'll be doing crafting the kind of usual mechanics you'd find in most other survival games. Rudimentary base building, getting basic tools and weapons like bow and arrow and various different sort of axes and stuff, before eventually finding the exotic matter and being able to mine it. Then once you get enough of that, you can buy better upgrades when you're on the orbital ships, and then you can use things like this sort of sand dune buggy, etc., to get across the terrain quicker, as well as get various different ways to automate the process for mining. There was a lot of questions asked about why spacemen are using bows and arrows, and I think the best answer is found in a lot of the devlogs that Icarus has kind of shown us. They have been very forward, RocketWorks, in showing what the game is, how it's been developed. Loads of devlogs showcasing all the stuff you come to expect, the dev interviews behind the design, certain aspects of the game, biomes, you know, the kind of usual do. In fact, I would say they've been pretty transparent and pretty open in how they've gone about developing the game, especially in the last few months, obviously, as they ramped up a bit of PR. A really good source of whether or not this game is going to be for you is their Twitch channel or their YouTube channel, where they re-upload these live streams, pretty much showing the progress of the game and how the gameplay is actually looking. So you got to commend them for that as well. It definitely feels like they are doing their best to get a conversation going with fans and making sure that the community is built on community feedback. It's interesting, it's not going to be an early access release. It's interesting to me that, like I said, they're going to have this planned DLC, which I do believe is going to be maybe a little bit more alien-like. So the idea being that Icarus is a very Earth-like planet with Earth-like biomes because of the original plans for terraforming it. But in future, you will be travelling and visiting much more alien-like territories or planets that have much more alien-like creatures. I don't think I could say alien any more times than I did in that 30 seconds. But still a bold move to really go out there. Like, I can't really get over it, to be honest, that they're going for that route where they're planning that DLC. I mean, again, maybe it's just being honest and upfront, and for people that really have followed the progress and can see proof or evidence in the gameplay streams, in the devlogs, in the openness from devs, that this game might be something they're really going to enjoy, and they could easily see themselves playing it for a long time, especially with the DLC. Then fair play, fair play. But I would argue that maybe with the reputation, the history of it still being your only second game, I would still say it's probably not the best idea, in my opinion. I would have liked to have seen just the base game release and then take it for granted that we're going to see more coming down the road, hopefully, if the game did well. Because the question will be now that once this game releases, if it doesn't necessarily have enough content, of the gameplay loops aren't there, it's not drawing people in, people are going to wonder, well, how much of it was held back for DLC? Could I have got more of a product or more for my money if you'd actually hadn't planned out this big DLC in the future? Now, that's an age-old question. I'm not labelling it on RocketWorks as being the arbiters of evil for doing this. It's like pretty standard in nearly 90% of the games out there nowadays to plan ahead, to have a roadmap of content you're going to put out in the future. But yeah, like I said, I still feel like this is a bold step for a game that we just don't necessarily know what kind of reaction it's going to have, I guess, until release. But I'm still keen, I'm still excited. I love the idea of exploring an alien planet, but with obviously them Earth familiarities, all the while trying to protect myself from the elements as well as creatures. The storms of Icarus really will be a big part of the gameplay in making sure you've got shelters and that you have got some rudimentary ways to protect yourself. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting prospect. I'm buying into the whole idea as well that it's primitive man. It just makes sense that you wouldn't be travelling to a planet with all the latest technology if you weren't necessarily backed by a huge government. You were kind of just doing this off your own back, or you was a small sort of team or company. It makes kind of sense in the idea that there's a gold rush, that you're getting maybe some dubious characters and dubious means or methods to get to Icarus to get this rare exotic material. And I'm pretty glad they have actually dropped the free-to-play mechanics. I could only imagine, best case scenario, it would have been skins or cosmetic items, just literally giving you some new looks to your spacesuit or to your base pieces or some decorative pieces in the game. To worst case scenario, it would have been free to play but pay to win, where you would have got a huge boost to XP. You would have been able to buy starter packs that gave you 5,000 wood, 5,000 stone, or maybe the best and greatest engineering sort of items to get the exotics quicker. So I've got no problems in spending 30 quid for a game. I think that's a reasonable price. It's about the same as you would expect, albeit a bit cheaper considering it's meant to be a fully fleshed game. It's not going to be early access. So yeah, fair play to them. I think the price is decent at 25 quid, 24 quid or $30. I just think, yeah, just the planning of them DLCs already and having it outlined, I don't know, I hope it doesn't come back to bite them in the bum a little bit. Let's hope that the game has got enough loops, it's got enough content to keep people happy, and so there are no accusations of kind of only putting out half of what you got. I do love the idea there's been a semi-roguelike game though, where your progress can be gone forever, and that's very reminiscent obviously of DayZ and stuff, where you got a chance to lose all your loot to players or zombies and stuff. But in this instance, it is going to be the weather, it could be attacks. Now that's not to say that if you die on the planet, that's it, it's game over. There's going to be ways for you to respawn back at your base, etc. It's only if you haven't got enough preparation or you haven't got enough currency to maybe rebuy your life that it could be potentially completely game over. And yeah, that escape adds that little bit of excitement to it. If you've got to run back to the rocket ship, and I've seen the devs talk about this in previous interviews and vlogs and stuff, that's the real draw of the game. That excitement in knowing that you maybe only got a few hours left before you've got to get off the planet. What you're going to do at that time? Have you overestimated something? Is it going to be a struggle making it to the rocket before it takes off? And will you be left and ultimately lose all your progress? There's so many different ways they could take this. It is interesting that the idea that they might be visiting alien-like planets in the future, where you could really go out to town with the different types of equipment and stuff that you'd be using, coming up against really alien-like planets with creatures and all sorts of mad fauna. That's interesting to me too. I like the premise, I like the story, I like the idea that, yep, it is like Prospectors, it is this gold rush, and it's not too technologically advanced. I've really gone off games lately like Ark Survival Evolved because of the way they've implemented tech tier, which is their futuristic tech, and it's just invaded the story so much that it's made me really hate the game compared to my love for it, because it was mostly primitive back in the day, just using your dinosaurs, and I love that aspect. So this grabs me as long as it's fun, as long as the menus are unfussy, and I've seen a lot from the dev vlogs that it's pretty standard fare. You'll be able to upgrade your health points, stamina points, etc. You'll be able to do quick base building, it's modular base building, it's pretty freeform. As you can see here, you can put pieces anywhere you like, and the harvesting is that voxel base, so literally you can harvest and damage any kind of rock. And I could see this being a real good sort of game like that, where you're harvesting, gathering resources. But as they've recently said, they don't want it to be a cozy cabin simulator. It's not about just building these cabins for the sake of it and stuff like that. It's about actually having a purpose, a reason to have bases and structures, even though the planet is going to eventually get you off of that zone or that area. I guess maybe the only negative I could see from community members or people that are interested in the game is the lack of server hosting. Maybe something they bring into the future, but it does look like this peer-to-peer system does mean you can transfer progress to your friends, but maybe if you all come off the game, that's it, the timer will just pause, and then when you go back on, it will start again, or whoever goes back on, that you've got 2 or 3 days to go. That will be an interesting mechanic with how that plays out. Like, if I start up a world and my friends join me, then I leave the world and my friends carry on playing, then what happens to that world once they come off? Can I go and start that world back up again and it's all going to be fine, and I'll just go to the progress that was last made by whoever else was on? And then I could see that becoming a bit of a trolling issue, or players would be joining, doing certain things and then just letting it run. Like, there's lots of questions there. I probably either need to research a little bit more, or the devs need to make that kind of info very easy to find out in the next few weeks and months. Common sense approach is it's going to be something like Valheim. You join, the host quits, everyone else quits, you can't carry on playing. But they have already said that persistence will carry on to whoever else is on that server, unless there's a choices in it and you don't have to have it that way. And then, yeah, is there a way to make the timers not go out? Is there going to be different ways to play it if people really do want to go back to the traditional ways of playing these games where they're on the same map for thousands of hours? They're promising that each instance where you land on this different parts of this huge map will be various ways to make it a bit more interesting. The caves might not be in the same spot, certain resources might not be, or landmarks might not be the same place. And that's really needed for a game like this, to keep it not being too repetitive, to make that experience different every time so it can't be gamed too easily. And I love the idea of that as well. And yeah, just worrying about the dangers of the wildlife, how harsh it could be, making sure the food and water situation is good, typical sort of hunting that you'd expect from a game like this. The building mechanics could be really good for builders, and although you might not have the persistence to keep that base, maybe they could introduce ways that you could have blueprints ready to set up and just simply add your materials to it in the future. Who knows? But yeah, the weather literally setting fire to your cozy cabin is interesting to me. The technological advances that you'll be able to go through is interesting, and the different biomes. We've seen a lot of just like the temperate forest area and a few gifs and clips of the snow biomes, but nothing really too much about the desert biome other than just a few choice clips from the trailer. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how landing in all three of these zones is very different, what types of survival elements you're going to have to think about a bit more, or especially for each biome. So excited about this. Absolutely. Like I said, I think it's okay to have some reservations about some parts of it, but overall I'm very excited to give this one a try, and I will be delivering as much as I can in terms of brand new info, previews and what to expect before its release. And of course, as soon as it is out, I'll show you guys lots of gameplay and guides and tutorials. My name is Jade. I hope you've enjoyed this. Leave me a like if you have, and I'll see you right back soon.